C programming and the DBMS session by another trainer. That was a kind of foundation training, I can say. And now that we are, little moving forward, and we are also posting you the opportunities of few internships, in terms of few internships and hackathons, or like some coding contests and all that. So it's high time that you'll get on to the next level and learn some new language, that is Java or Python. So usually these are the two languages that we train the students on, and the students can opt as per their choice. So earlier we used to train only Java, but we have slowly moved on to Python as well. So the reason I'm saying this is, like, few students have texted me saying that they're very comfortable in C++ and all that. So let me tell you one thing. Language is not just, that's not important. I mean, like, when it comes to problem solving or any problem statements and all, the logic is very much important. Language and all is just to use that syntax and all that. But however, people who have opted Python, I say that it's a very good choice. Of course, Java is also good, but this is especially the message that I'm saying now is for the non-IT students, because they say that Python is somewhat like very simpler to learn, or maybe like that. And today, when the trainer will let you know, and because he also has to understand about what is your level and go accordingly. So with that as a start, let me welcome Rohit, and he's your trainer, and he'll be taking Python sessions for you guys. And he's a corporate trainer, as I told, and he's working for a product-based company. So we are getting people who are working in the industry to train you guys. It's not like we are not uh, going with the conventional trainers or academicians or faculties like that, but we are training the people who are already working professionals, or who are the hiring panels of freshers and all, to train you all, because they can take you through the real-time examples and little give you an overview and understanding of what problem solving, or what real time is like. Okay. And just to give you a background of Rohit, as I said, he's working for a product company, and he has 4 to 5 years plus of experience, industry experience. And regarding training also, he has 2 3 years of experience actually. And he's more into corporates than to colleges. So that's how, I think you'll definitely enjoy with him, interacting with him. One input I would like to give you is, please be interactive as much as possible, because as I again told you, these are not your, we are third party, right? Like, we don't know you, or like we are at least not getting to meet you in person. I think 2 months back we got to meet you in college for aptitude sessions, but otherwise, at least the trainer don't know you, and these are happening virtual. So only if you interact, he'll know, okay, whether he has to go forward, or he has to stop by and clear your questions and all that. So he'll be as open as possible, and usually that's how it is with the industry people. You don't have to feel shy to ask about, or will not complain to anyone if your doubt is very silly. The reason I'm telling all these is because these are the common issues that come up. So please feel free as much as possible, and happy learning. And we understand that you have external exams in a couple of days. That's what we got to know today, because your college was telling us that the exams would be sometime in March. So let's see how to go about and all. The time is a little crunchy. The reason, we are pushing it from our end is also because ultimately the time we get will be very, very, very little. And the first big opportunity and a very good opportunity is Hack with Infi. I hope all of you have registered for Hack with Infi, and it is going to happen in, I think, in between 6th to 9th of March. So for that, you'll need some programming language, and it's easy to get a offer of at least minimum 3.5 if you are able to be good with your concepts and do some basic coding. Of course, Infosys has different levels, that is system engineer role, digital system engineer role, power programmer role, and all that. So there are different packages, but the basic package for system engineer is 3.5. So all of you can easily crack it. And I mean, of course, they'll give you an internship, and then from there they'll absorb. You'll be joining only after your college, but still, like the internship period is something that you should really consider, because there you'll get more practical exposure. So with this, I think it's a very good beginning, and 150 is definitely a very good strength. And I was expecting a little more with the number of registrations and with the kind of response that we got. I think few of them have backed off because of exams or whatever. So whoever are in the session, please make the best utilization of the session. Okay, thank you so much, and over to Rohit. Rohit, you can take it from here.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Savni. Thank you for introducing. So even I'd like to introduce myself as well. So am I audible, or is there any disturbance from my side? So we'll check with that first. So please respond. So I want you guys to be interactive. So the more you interact, the more I can explain. So you have to respond to each and every message or anything which I ask. So please confirm that I'm audible, or I'm fine, or anything, any disturbance from my side or not. Okay. Okay, so I'm getting few responses, but in future as we go on, I want much more responses from you guys so that we can interact better. So the more interaction we have, the more you learn. So it's not just the terms of education purpose, even on the industry purpose. The more you talk, the more opportunities you get. So we'll go forward. Maybe I'll introduce myself. That my name is Rohit. I have pretty much good experience on Python, on the industry purpose, and even on the curriculum I started with Python. So I have pretty much good hands-on experience on Python, which I have been doing from past couple of years on the professional side as well. So not just maybe focusing on Python. So I have experience also on front-end technologies where we usually build websites and mobile application and things like that. But overall, you can treat me as a full stack developer who can work on Python on the backend side, on the front end side with HTML and CSS and things like that. So I hope everybody is fine. So in this pandemic situation, so that's the main thing which we need to focus on than anything else. When it's coming to Python, so I also want to know that what kind of languages you have experience on or you have sessions with, so that we can go forward in that manner. Can you guys tell what kind of programming languages which you have, maybe training or maybe in your curriculum and things like that? Okay, C and C++. I see most of the people are saying C. Is it part of your curriculum? That's why you're saying C? Okay, so maybe it's a good time for you to start any programming language. So you don't need to have like complete experience on any of the programming language. But one thing you need to make sure that you shouldn't be worried about what programming language are you trying to learn. So you should be able to have a better understanding of any of the programming language. Even if you are trying to learn Python initially or maybe Java initially, that's completely fine with that, because any corporates, they won't expect you to learn Python before coming to because nowadays most of the getting an opportunity. So when I was there back then, there is no opportunity for me to work on Python. For me, it's there because I have curriculum inside Python. But just make sure that you should be able to understand any of the programming language, even while you do any corporate exams or things. They will give an opportunity to write your programs in any of the language, even in your test. So not just Python or Java. They'll give opportunity to write any of the language you can choose from the drop downs. So you need to focus on one of the programming language. So we much focus on Python right now, because right now Python is on top notch of each and every technology which we use. Uh, Even if you go to Google and search which is the better programming language or which is the best programming language, everybody is using right now, you get Python. Because one of the main reason why people choose this Python is not because it's easy, it's because it's had very standard library. So one more also main thing which we are focusing on Python, because Python mostly deals with data. So uh, even if you take Zomato as an example, Zomato doesn't have much of revenue from what of the deliveries they do. So their main use case is on the data. So what kind of products are you ordering? So what kind of things are you ordering? So it's much focus on the data which they have. So that database can be analyzed and informative using Python much more. We have much flexibility on Python language where we can achieve these kind of things. So that's one of the main things. So in future, even if it's search for any of the job roles or designations, so the designation which has data in it will have more value in it. So as part of that, so maybe we'll get to understand a few of what exactly is programming, what exactly is Python. So we'll have little overview on that part. So maybe I have like a couple of slides which I created. Maybe I'll share those right now so that we can start from there and get to know little what is exactly a programming is and things like that. And let me share my screen. So before starting, if you have any questions which we need to discuss, please ask me so that we can discuss. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please ping on the chat before starting our slides, or any maybe little introduction to Python. I hope I hope there is no question. So maybe we'll get on with a few of our introduction slides. So I hope you guys can see my screen. So we'll go to. So we'll basically learn the fundamentals of not just the fundamentals of the entire system, maybe the fundamentals basic related to the computer. So I forgot to ask, can you see my screen? I guess I'm sharing my slides. I think you have to see my screen. Please let me know whether you can see it. Okay. Okay, sure. That sounds good. Okay. So here you can see I just mentioned four of the main important things which is required in one single computer. So to run a computer, we need few basic things which I mentioned over here. So CPU is one of the main thing which we need a basic computer to run, and we have RAM, storage, and operating system. So we'll discuss in detail how exactly CPU is related to the programming which we do. So what exactly is how it's related CPU to the programming. So if you see here, so the full form of CPU is Central Processing Unit. I think most of the people might have known what exactly a CPU is, because from the experience everybody has uh, maybe maybe a time when you have an hands-on experience on any of your computer laptops and things like that. So every computer or every laptop which you use has a CPU. The older computers will have a bigger CPU because it was not much optimized at that time. So we were taking much of a space and much of a uh, less of a complexity over there. So we need to much focus on improving every time. So right now we are getting laptops in a lesser space and lesser weight as well. So we have also CPU which is of very smaller sizes. But CPU plays an important role in any of the computer or any of the device or which is related to machine. So right now when we comes to CPU, basically CPU is a processor. So processor means the thing which will initiate and make the process go. So even if, for example, if you have to um, so when we are standing in a line of any booking system or something, so while we are standing, if we have to move the line, or it's basically a process which we are moving over there. So if we have to move the line, we need someone to remove or someone to go off from there. So if we have someone to go off from there, we need to give the tickets. So it's kind of process. So the entire process, the person who needs to go front. So the person who get the ticket, he has to go away again. So the entire process system is called a process. So the all the things which is dealing with the entire process, or how exactly it has to start, or how exactly it has to end, or how what's the execution behind it. So it all can be processed using CPU. So it has much more information, not just very simple information. CPU has very complete grip of your entire computer. So it's basically also can treat as heart or brain of a computer, because those are the main important things. So whatever the things which CPU handle, so it's gonna happen in your computer. It's not gonna come outside of your computer. So you need to have uh, this understanding before. So as we are dealing with software related technologies, we have also hardware parts. So right now we are not much focusing on hardware because we are on the computer side. But on the hardware part, if you see a CPU, I didn't add the image, but CPU will have a very small chip which has some few important things in it. But on the hardware part it is, but the software side, we will write the code for it, how exactly these things to be happen. So we need to write a program that what should happen if this thing is happening. So let's suppose if you are opening a Chrome tab, or if you Google Chrome. So you are opening Google Chrome, but you don't know what's happening behind it. So as soon as you open it, a program is initiated that we have to open this particular application in our system. So it's gonna go to that particular path. So whatever the path it is, and it'll find the location, and it'll find the all the files which we downloaded. So while we are downloading the Chrome, it's going to download all the parts of thing, and it will open that particular. So the entire execution will come under one program. So these all kind of multiple programs will be handled by CPU. Inside CPU, there are multiple transistors. So transistors acts as a gates. If you want anything to happen, so there are thousands of gates inside it, thousands of transistors basically inside it. But if basically transistors decide what exactly the flow should be. So whether it has to go from left or right, or so if you are going on a road, so you need to know where you need to go. So if you are going straight and there is a dead end over there, so you have to go left or right. So transistors play a role, like even if you have to go straight, so there is a barrier over there, so which can change the flow of your destination. So transistors act in that way. I'm in middle. I'll be checking your messages as I can't see your chat messages. So if I'm not listening, maybe you can switch on your audio and let me know that you have some issue. So that would be helpful also from my side. So every computer will have motherboard. So motherboard will basically as a as an electrical unit where we in your particular house or in your particular apartment. So you can see a centralized unit where every household connections will be there. So we will be handling everything from there itself. So motherboard acts as a central unit where CPU basically will be a part of motherboard. So motherboard also, so we know CPU will do all these kind of things, but how CPU will do? So that those kind of things also has to be handled by motherboard. So the basic location of CPU will be in that particular motherboard which we have, where each and every execution of the entire computer flow will be handled. Okay, so that's on CPU. And so when we come to RAM, we might have heard that we have 4 GB of RAM, 6 GB of RAM in our mobile application, mobile phones or laptops and things. But we don't know what exactly a RAM is. So why do we refer? So if we are having much bigger RAM, so what will happen? So how it will be more efficient, or why it's so expensive when we are using for bigger RAM? So RAM basically means random access memory. It will handle, so uh, it has the term, so it has the explanation. Basically it acts as a memory. It'll act as a memory point. It won't store all your file or any files you download and things like that. It won't store all those kind of things. What it will store is the execution of your application. So if you open uh, any Chrome tab, let's suppose if you are opening a Chrome application, you have some set of instruction which we need, and we need to store and execute these kind of things every time you open it. So we need some place where we have to store all these kind of things. So RAM will act as a temporary storage service. RAM won't have the data. So once you switch off your computer, RAM will be empty. It won't have any information. So whatever the information which you stored when the computer is on. So when you are trying to open any particular application, and it's gonna take all the information that as soon as you click on it, it has to open the application, it has to open the tab. So all the programming things behind running an application will be stored at some point. So that some point will be RAM. You will be having much bigger applications when you are trying to use it. So not just Chrome you will be using it, but many more application you will be, maybe if you have any PowerPoints or Microsoft Word, some things like that. So every time you use it, so there is some execution will be happening behind it. The program will be happening behind it. So every task we do, every time we open any tab, or every time we open any settings part of any Chrome, so everything will have an execution and everything will have a program to do it. So without program we cannot do anything. So when I click on any tab, so it's gonna add a new tab. So that means it has some process behind it, and we have written some programming behind it. So because of that, everything gonna happen. So all this kind of information we'll be storing in a random access memory, which is RAM. So even if you try to, I might have, everybody might have played PUBG. So even if you are trying to uh, play PUBG in your mobile application, some might feel little lag or uh, some inconnectivity while you are playing. So some might not feel it because you are having good or better RAM, or maybe in terms of size or in terms of quality which they are using. But the people who has a better RAM, they can use it much flexibility, because the execution of everything. So even if you are moving a left or right or going straight or back, we have to store each and everything. So all these kind of executions, and we have to store at some place. So that place will be RAM. RAM doesn't have the capability of storing your all your images or documents which you have. So RAM is not used for that. So we have storages for that. RAM will only hold the information to execute any application, or how exactly it has to be done. So if you, even if you go to PUBG, you have lots of graphics in it. So you need to do lots of animation over there, and every time you do it. So while you are jumping it, while moving forward, there is a physics behind it. So you cannot directly jump it. So you need to know how much distance you need to go forward, or how much distance you need to jump high and go forward in the parallel. So there's lots of execution behind it. So everything is programmed by any of the human. So few people might be dealing with programming of any gaming applications, and few will dealing with just normal applications. But in the end, everybody have to deal with program. Even if computer science students or electronic students, they need to write some particular kind of program at some point. If you have to run any kind of application, as few people also mentioned MATLAB. So even on the MATLAB, you have to do some program over there to do some calculation. So even while you're writing any code, that's not the only part which you are doing. So that may be a program, but there is lots behind it. What exactly is happening? You might be writing int a equal to 1. So right now 1 is in a. So that doesn't mean it's directly storing a. So storing the value of 1 in a. So there is lots behind it. So the behind part will already had written by this Python community, and it also has to be written by the operating system which we have. So right now I have a Windows operating system. So in the same way, we need to do all this execution in a particular manner. So it has to be dealt in a very proper way. So even if you break at some point, so we cannot go forward in it. So every time you open, so let's suppose if you are opening any uh, design files. So design basically mean let's suppose if you're using any Photoshop. So Photoshop is to edit any kind of photos or something. So Photoshop has a lot of things to do in the background. So it won't just directly provide you the facility to edit your photos or edit your videos and things, but there's lots of things which will be going in the background side. So if you're having a lesser RAM, so RAM of 2 GB, let's suppose. So if you're having 2 GB of RAM, it need to store lots of information on the RAM. So as soon as you start a computer, there are lots of things will be running in the background, and all those things information will be stored in RAM. So without RAM, you might be you can also run computer, but very limited data. You cannot do much of you can't even open Chrome so seamlessly. So right now Chrome is expecting much more RAM, but you will be not you cannot use a computer without RAM when you are using Chrome. So you need something which can hold all these kind of execution and things. Sorry, someone saying something? Sai Ganesh, can you mute, or is it who? Can you please mute from your side so that we can go forward? Okay, we'll go forward. So RAM will basically hold all the application load. So when there is, so even for a simple example, if there is any lots of so even if you're while you are taking a lift, there is a limit for lift that it can hold only 6 people in it, because it has a capacity how much it can hold. So without RAM, computer can hold maybe not even one person, but based on the RAM size, it can hold how much big application are you using. Chrome might not take Chrome right now it's taking much, but usually any other Internet Explorer right now it's Bing, so it won't take much of size or much of space in RAM. Even if you're opening any notepad or something, it won't take much of a execution time or much of load in your computer. So those things might work fine. But if you need better experience while you are using any computer, so even if you're trying to open or load any Chrome tabs or something, it's gonna take much more load every time you use it. So the more RAM you have, the more information it can store, and it can have availability that even if new people can come up, new information, new application can come up, it's gonna move in a smooth way. So if you are filling your, so you might also face, I think few people will discuss when we go to that storage, but on the RAM side, if you are right now, everybody might have felt that your system hanged or something, or some issue with your system. So major reason behind it, you are opening much bigger application which has bigger load to be taken while you are running it. So if your RAM capacity is just for 4 people, you cannot get 6 people or 8 people inside the lift, because that's a load of it. So you are reaching the extreme point of it. So you need to decrease the weight. So you need to let the 2 people go off so that 4 people can go. So even if while you are going with 4 people, you can see the difference in the flexibility while you are using it. So the execution and things, it won't be smooth. So you can see a delay of loading any application and thing. So you have to use your RAM in much lesser manner. So you shouldn't use, or you shouldn't go much deep or much usage of your RAM every time you open it. So there are few applications which will take much more RAM without knowing. So for example, if you see Skype or TeamViewer, Skype basically is for video calling. So Skype will take little of your RAM even if you're not using. So Skype will open the application as soon as you open the computer without you knowing it. So this will take a little of RAM, which is not, you're not using it, but it's running in the background. So there's some things, or same, there is some execution happening behind, and there is a load which also already occupied on the RAM. So every time you use any on your computer, you need to check that what kind of application is running in the background. So you can see a tray below. So for Windows I'm saying, but for Windows you can see a tray what kind of applications are running parallelly without knowing. So you need to turn them off so that you can have a better experience on your computer, so that there is much space available. Even if the limit of lift is 4, you, if you're having 4 people, you will feel so much congestion. But if you're going alone, so you'll have much flexibility over there, and you have much more space. You can feel comfortable over there. Same thing happens in computer as well. The more applications you run, the more unfeasible it will be, and you cannot feel that comfortableness while you are using it. So we have storages. So every information or every file which we have, or every application we download, it gonna go to storages. So you will download uh, Google Chrome. So you, as soon as you install Google Chrome, it will have a package of bundle which will have lots of information files and all the programming things which is related, which is already built. So as soon as you download it, it's gonna store in storage. Either it can be HDD or SSD. There is some spelling mistake was there. So HDD or SSD, it will store in any of the storages, not just HDD. So we have many more storages which we have been using. So I think many people might have known memory cards where we used to use it. I think nowadays memory cards were extinct. Nobody uses it, but we used to have memory cards way before on our mobiles as well. So we have like 16 GB, 8 GB memory cards where we used to store information. So storage will act where we can store information when we download any application or when we download something from Google. So it's gonna go to storage. It won't go anywhere else. It won't go to RAM or something. So RAM is also a memory. Storage is also memory. So storage will store. RAM also will store some information, but RAM will hold the application execution. So what exactly things, or how exactly the thing has to be done. So the entire execution flow of things will be done through RAM. It won't have much of information regarding how or what kind of information we are storing. So if you are downloading any image, it's gonna go to storage. So if you deal with difference between RAM and storage, so one of the main difference is that if you are storing anything in storage, any of your storages, even if you try to, even after you switch off your computer, it's gonna be there still when you come back. But RAM won't be like that. So as soon as you switch off your computer, it will clear all the RAM. So you also might have a situation where if your laptop got stuck or if your computer got stuck, you will be restarting your computer. Maybe you don't know reason why we are restarting or what will happen behind restarting. So this is what will be happening. So the usage of RAM went to an extent. So extreme point, you have used maximum point of maximum usage of your RAM. So as soon as you restart it, it's gonna clear all your RAM. Again, it's gonna start back again. So as soon as you switch on your computer again, it's gonna have very less RAM usage initially, uh, but you need to take care what kind of application you are running on start of your computer. So that's the reason behind why we restart a computer when we have any issue with using any of your computer got stuck or laptop got stuck. So storage will have all the information even if you go back and come back to the uh, switch off or basically shut down your computer and come back to it after some time, because storage will have all the information which you download or things for longer period unless you delete it. So you have uh, many storages. We have every laptop or every computer will have storages like HDD and SSD, and you also might have aware pen drives, so which we usually call as flash drives, and we have memory cards as well. So memory cards and pen drives are the most common things every teenager will know. So maybe after kind of some time you might also have knowledge what how many kind of storages are there, so what exactly or how exactly the storage works. So this is an overview that uh, what exactly the storage is. So couple of years back, maybe a 10-15 years back, storage used to be very bigger size. Even for 8 GB we used to have like very bigger uh, mechanism part, so basically the hardware part of it. So we used to have it very big. So we has to evolve at some point. So right now we are evolving. If you see, you can store some terabytes of information in just small memory card size of any of the hardware part. Right now, that's how we are evolving. Uh, your mobile application or your mobile phone might not handle uh, terabytes of storage because your phone might not capable of handling that much of data. So everybody will have some particular RAM usage of it as well. So even if you're having 4 GB of RAM and one TB of storage in your mobile phone, it would be much hard for you to use it. But maybe on laptops you can use it because there are much more extra components we will be adding to the laptop which will handle. So basically it will split the execution of every task which you are trying to use it. So that's how storages basically work. Storing information. Sorry, someone asked something. Okay, so we'll check our last point on the basics of computer fundamentals, which is operating system. So what exactly an operating system is? You see, right now you are using Windows, so Windows is an operating system, and many people might have used Mac as well. So Mac is also an operating system, and Android and iOS is also operating system. And for OnePlus users, we have Oxygen OS. So everything is an operating system. Operating system basically will act as a barrier between a CPU or the execution or the programming or the machine code which we have and the user. So as a user, I have to do something. So I cannot go and check the program and run the file each and every time. So because that's not what I am. So I don't know how to do all those things. So we need some operating system which will help us to do all those kind of things. So the execution behind clicking on tab, opening a new tab, there is some things which will be happening on the background. So usually as a programmer, I can run manually by going to that particular file or other program which we wrote and we execute it. But as a non-programmer, I don't know how to write it, but we have to use it at. So there is a bridge between the computer programming code and the user who is using it. So that bridge can be filled by operating systems. So every operating system has their own usage. They are defining in a such manner that so that much more people can use it. So our most of the famous operating system on the laptop, on the PCs we have Windows, Mac, and Linux. So most of the people might have not known, not Linux. So it's basically Ubuntu. I think most of the people might not know Ubuntu because you have uh, experience on Windows and Mac or something. But if you ask me, I prefer Ubuntu for writing programming or to do any programming because it's much convenient for me. But right now I have Ubuntu as well, but I do all these kind of things from my Windows machine to do all this kind. But on my professional side and any work which I have to do, which has to be done through Python, so I prefer doing in Ubuntu. And any client side application or creating websites or mobile application things like that, I prefer to do it from Windows. And there is no drawback from Ubuntu. You can do anything from Ubuntu, even for client side or server side things and everything. So yeah, every system needs to have an operating system. So even if you take a computer, so without any operating system, you cannot run any computer. You know, you have the code, you have the information how to execute or how to check the flow of it, but you don't know how to use it. As a non-programmer, or even if as a programmer, I don't know how to run the entire software of an application because that's not my expertise. But I have to use it. So operating system will help us to achieve it, which will act as a barrier in between to do all those kind of things. Same like how, so even if you have any complaint, that's for an example. So even if you have any complaint, you might not go to principal directly. So you have people who are there in between. So you might complain to them, and those kind of information will go to the higher authorities. So something like that. So you'll have a bridge in between. So maybe right now you will have opportunity to meet your principal, but as an example, operating system will complete or fill up the bridge in between computer machine code and the user. So this is just basic understanding of computer fundamentals, what exactly or how exactly things will happen on background. So when you use any computer, so we'll see. So maybe before starting or on the what exactly the programming part. Okay, that's good. I think everybody is evolving right now. So if most of the colleges using Mac OS while in their labs and things, but even using Ubuntu is much flexible as well. So that's great to hear. So if you guys have any questions before starting or before getting into what exactly Python is and what's the uses of Python. So if you have any questions till now what we discussed, please let me know. Please let me know on the chat if you have any questions so that we can discuss and move forward. Yeah, so yeah, what maybe can you explain a little what exactly you want? So you have written CPU and RAM. So uh, can you give little more information that what exactly you need? some more about Windows. So I think I have pretty much. Yes, yeah. RAM is temporary storage device. So I have already mentioned it, right? Yes. So we can run. Yeah, yeah. So we'll go line by line. So um, can we run PC without RAM? So we can run PC without RAM, but you cannot open it. So even you in the present application which we use, we might not uh, we might not use it. We cannot use any of the application without RAM. Uh, every computer will have many very minimal of load which it can bear. So it cannot take much more of application which it can run. So every system right now which we use will have some RAM, but it's very negligible. So even if you search for it, you might find that you cannot find it. You cannot run any application without RAM. But there are very minimal things which you can do without RAM, but that's very negligible. So you cannot do much of things. But you need RAM to do any of your behind it, or opening any application, or anything which is happening for from the opening of any application, from opening of any Google Chrome and to the end of it till we close it. So all the things will be stored. So what exactly has to be done and how things should be done. So everything will store in RAM. So as soon as you switch off your computer, all your RAM and everything. So it's basically cached information. So which will be stored and everything will be cleared off. So it will basically access a session. So as soon as you close the session, all the data which has uh, will be cleared off. So that's regarding the question which you asked. Can we do run any computers without RAM? Why do you prefer some type of OS for different languages? It's basically the comfortness which we have. So it's not we we are using this particular OS for this particular languages. So we can do everything on Ubuntu. There is no limitation over here. But there are a few limitations for Windows when we are trying to run any servers, any local host servers. So based on few of things like that, yeah. So based on things like that, we decide what exactly have to be used. So when you come to programming, we usually deal with Ubuntu or Mac than going with Windows. Most of the people, so non-technical roles and things like that, they might get for lesser RAM. So even for 4 GB of RAM is enough for non-technical people, because they might not be doing much of a work over here. So opening sheets or doing work and handling, we have Google Sheets over there and things like that. For those kind of things, we don't need much of a RAM over there, and we don't need to prefer any particular OS over there. So one big advantage of using Ubuntu or Mac is that you won't be having any dead virus. So if you are using any Windows machine, you will be seeing lots of information that your computer has virus and you are downloading any this kind of information from internet which has virus in it. So virus basically it will stop the execution of your entire workflow. So it will fill up your RAM as well. It will stop the usage of it. So your computer will be dead. So as soon as some any of the virus which is entered. So we usually buy antivirus for that, and we have some technical information, technical possibilities. So most of the companies, they don't prefer Windows because this is the one major thing, that security. So everybody wants security. They don't want their information to be, yeah, so I'm coming to the part. So they don't want their information to be taken by someone else. So one big reason behind it is that for security purpose they don't prefer Windows. For maybe for technical purposes, programming people who are on the tech side, so they will be preferring Ubuntu or Mac OS. Uh, when you're trying to download any file from your internet, you might not see what exactly is happening behind it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you might not know what exactly is happening behind it. So there might be several injections will be happen. So injection basically mean you are just downloading a file. So you don't know what exactly is happening behind. So there is some other information or other in particular part of program is also downloaded, which is executing as soon as you download that particular image from the Google. So it will basically do the injection part over there, and it might create some issues behind it. That it might take all the information in your system and things like that. So that's why most of the people prefer using Mac OS or Ubuntu. Most of the programmers will use it, but most of the technical persons only will use Ubuntu and Ubuntu and Mac OS. So and the question which you asked, that why SSD or what's the main purpose of using SSD? So we have SSD in our recent invention. So before we used to have storage in HDD itself. One main reason why we use SSD is that we have much more handling. So even if you are trying to store much of information, the more you use it, the more RAM also it's gonna take it. So the information also which you trying to store in it, so it might be much bigger. So every SSD storage which you use, it's much more efficient than HDD. So it will be much faster as well as it's costlier as well. So comparatively, it's more than twice of the amount a similar HDD which you are trying to buy. The major difference is that we it, basically, yes. So every time, yeah. So every time if you are downloading any file or something from your Google, it will download it, but it also has to retrieve it when you are trying to open it. So if you are trying to open downloads, so as soon as you open it, it should has to also open what kind of files are there in that particular location. So downloads will have multiple things which are already there. So you need to retrieve the information. So all the process has to be done. So if you are trying to find out that whether this file is there or not, so it's gonna call. So there will be an asynchronous parallel over there. So asynchronous basically mean you don't have to wait for the other execution to complete the first one. So everything will go in a parallel way. So it's gonna find each and everything, whether we have this particular file or not, whether it's deleted or something. So it's gonna read and retrieve it. So what all things are already there when you are trying to open that uh, particular file destination. So those are the major things why people use HDD over SSD over HDD. And in the even in terms of price, it's little expensive. SSD is little expensive, and I think half a TB of SSD is equal to some 20,000 or something. But So basically, that's how it deal with it. So that's the reason. Most of the reason. One one main reason is that it's much flexible and faster. So it's much more. Uh, so one similar example is that the more you have your energy in your body, the more you can run. So without energy, you cannot do it. So it has much more capability of doing things much faster in an asynchronous manner. So it's gonna try and retrieve all those information. So every time you open any of your uh, folder structure. So if you go to documents and things like that, it has to retrieve what kind of things are there. If you use HDD, so few of your laptops, it might take some time to load what files are there. You can see that loading bar on top. So it will take some time to read what exactly what kind of files are there in the particular location. So the execution of things behind will happen much faster for SSD than HDD which we use. So do you have any more questions? If you have, please pass on so that we can move forward and we can discuss a little on Python as well. Okay, so we'll see topics related to programming. So what exactly is programming? So we have been talking programming that we'll do programming this and that. So what exactly programming is? So right now we are talking in English because I know English and you know English, but computer doesn't know English. So it can take data which is only a machine code, which is in binary format, which are completely on zeros and ones. So each and every character and number and things like that, you will be having a binary code for it. So you have to do everything in a binary manner so that computer can understand. But in the parallelly, we cannot write the entire program, entire flow of things in a machine code because we also have an extreme point where we can write it. So we cannot write the entire thing, but program. So all the program which we are writing. So we have our multiple programming language which you use Java, C, and example which I mentioned below. So this will basically help us to write the program in the language which we know, which we can feasibly write. And while we are compiling it, so it's gonna convert all the code, all the source code which you have written into a machine code, where machine, how exactly the machine can understand. So what exactly uh, has to happen. So it will create in that manner. So the compilation will happen in the background as soon as we start compiling it. So that's what exactly a program is. So uh, let's suppose as an example, you went to any one of in building and you have to take a lift. So you don't know how to take a lift. So you'll be taking some help that how exactly you need to get onto a lift and click the floor number and things, and you get on and go. So you might be taking help of another person that uh, how to get on a lift. So we'll write a program for it. So that particular person will act as a program that how this thing has to be happen. So from going from ground floor to third floor or fourth floor. So we write a program that will take from here to there. So it will help you to achieve your whatever the process which you need to be done. So we'll write a program for it and we'll let the things happen parallelly. So the main purpose of programming is to, we don't need any human intervention. So if you are, so right now there is only one. Sorry. Yeah. So we cannot stand. So as an example which I gave before, so we cannot stand at the same point for everybody who is coming to that building. So we have to do some automation over there. So we'll write a program and we'll do all the sequence over there. So every person comes in and every person automatically, so we'll put an information and give an information that this has to be done. So they now know that they have to open the door and get onto it and go to some particular floor in it. So we'll have like a set of instruction which we already pre-built. So every time someone comes, this is the flow they have to follow. So we'll basically automate the process. So we'll write the program for it. Every similar purpose which we are trying to use, we'll use the same program. So opening Google Chrome will have one program itself. So every time you will open a new tab in Google Chrome, will run only one program. So that's the reason why we'll write a program, and the flow which has to be done on any action which we are doing, it's gonna happen in that way. So that's the main that's the main purpose of uh, using any programming, or what's the purpose of any program. Even when you're trying to do any calculations and things, so we have a program. So I'll also give one more example. So every semester you get in, you'll have a calendar, or that which all subjects will be at what time and what weeks and things. So right now we'll be writing everything manually, that this particular professor will go to this section initially at 8 to 9, and 9 to 10 will be done by other person. So instead of human thinking all those things or wasting some time over there, we have, or we'll write a program for it, which will help us to achieve all those things. So that's a very big program which we can write. But as an example, that we can automate this kind of process. So we don't need human to think much over there. So we just have a program over there, and every can use it. Every section, if you have to define for one semester, for one bunch of sections or something, so we can do it in a simpler manner that way, by creating any programs for it. So that's how uh, we use programming. But what is Python programming? So we also have to know why Python and things like that. So we have Python is an interpreted high-level language. So there are much more terms in it which you need explanation. So I also added few more slides below it. So what is interpreted and what is compiler? So if you see here, as an example, compiler languages are C, C++, C Sharp, Java, and things. And interpreters are Python, Ruby, and Perl below. So what exactly will happen here? So whenever you try to run any C program, you have to compile first. So after compilation, if there is no errors inside it, then you can execute and run it. So there is much bigger process which is happening behind it. So you need to first compile it, and then you need to run it. And if there is any issue with your entire program while compiling, it has to wait for the entire code to be searched. So even if there is any issue in the first line of your program, so it will scan the entire program which you wrote, and it will compile everything. And in the end, it's gonna give the issue that there is an issue with your program at line number 3 or 4 or things. In the same way, interpreter will act as a different. It will check for the first line if there is any issue or not, and it will compile it parallelly itself, and it will go to the second line. So as soon as there is any error which you find, so it's gonna stop code at that point itself. It won't go further. So which will make the program to run efficient manner. So that's one of the main difference between compiler and interpreter, is that we don't have any compilation in interpreter. As soon as if you want to run any Python program, you just need to follow one command. So that command will do the compilation and execution and everything. So it will basically do all the part of it. It will directly execute it. As soon as you write the code, it will go line by line. So first line of the code will be executed, and it check whether there is an issue or not. So after checking each and every line of code, at the end, it's gonna start executing the entire code in the interpreter. but compiler will act little different in those terms. The main advantage of compiler is that it take much of a time to execute a program, but interpreters will take lots of time to execute it, because as we are not doing any pre-compilation before, it has to check and validate while it's doing the execution itself. So one of the biggest drawback which Python has is this, that it will take little greater time of execution than the compilers. So all the compiler languages which we have. So that's one of the main drawback of Python using it, that you might also see at some point if you are using so right now while you are writing any small programs, you don't see much of a difference because you are giving smaller inputs over here, you are writing very smaller programs over here. But when you are doing some large amount of program for running any software or creating any application and things, then you will see a difference that why it is slow, or what exactly the reason behind it. So it might be slow, but even in terms of usability and readability, Python it's on the top notch right now. So even even any non-programmer can easily use Python nowadays because it's very easy to understand. So even in your maths which you are solving, so you just write x value is 1, y value is 2 and things, but you cannot define in the same way in any compiler languages, that C, Java and things. But Python has that flexibility to write in an easier manner than going with a complex code. So you just have very small amount of code which you can write for any bigger program. So Python is known for writing smaller codes. Even comparatively, I'll also show one example slide which I added. Yeah. So if you see here, this is a Java code where we are trying to open a file, read a part of it, read the information of it, and close it. So in Python, we just have 3 lines: to open file, read file, and close file. So this is the much flexibility which we have. Python basically has a very big library which we can use it. So for any of the data related information which we are trying to deal with it, so we have much bigger libraries for Python, which will help us to understand and do things easier. So for example, if you have to do some part of programming execution, you don't need to write the code again, so you can reuse the libraries in it. So not just in terms of programming on this normal programming which you write on these things, but we have much more libraries for using uh, machine learning and artificial intelligence. So right now we use Python itself mostly because of the libraries which they have in terms of doing a real life problem solving. So real life problem solving right now we are doing using AI. So you also know all the automation cars which we have. So we have a bigger AI which is over there, which will try to understand what can be. So as a human, we know that as there is a vehicle coming in front of it, we have to move right or left. But as a system, it doesn't know. So we have to do some things over there that if there is coming, you have to move left or right. So these kind of things we'll be doing on an automation purposes. So we have bigger libraries on Python, which will help us to achieve these kind of things in a much simpler manner. So all as said before also that in future data is gonna rule everything. So everything you do, if you have much bigger data, you can gain much more money out of it. So all the data related information, if you have to get the analytics of it, so you might also see designation like data science, data analytics. Can you switch off? Can you switch off your mic? No, I don't know who is it. I'm not able to see. Okay. So basically, Python is a scripting language. So scripting is basically is a series of program. As scripting basically act as interpreter, which we already discussed. There is no compilation required when we are trying to run any program. So we, if people might have known, we use JavaScript also for creating web applications. So we know there is a button. So right now share is a button. So we don't know what will happen on click of a button. So these kind of things we will be doing through programming language like JavaScript, Python, PHP, and Ruby and things. So these all languages are called scripting languages where we do uh, web application related information, so we can create websites and things. So because there is no compilation required for doing any work over here, so any programming language which needs to be compiled before executing it, we cannot use it to create web application, because web application will run on one go, which will execute the entire things. It won't compile before. So as an example, if you open any website, it won't compile before and it won't run it again. So as soon as you open it, it's gonna execute it and it's gonna show you that particular site. So whatever you are trying to see. So basically Python will act as a uh, programming, which is act as a scripting language. So scripting language will also use as an automation. So for an example, you also might have seen on Amazon that there is a big sale going on. For 100 rupees, you will be getting some 10,000 laptop or something. So it will be much limited. So maybe some 10 laptops if they are giving. So you cannot open every time and then check it and add it to the cart, and it won't be basically it won't be available by the time you load it. So it will go sold out in maybe fraction of seconds. So the reason behind is going to sold out in fraction of second is that there's an automation code or program which we write on maybe Python or JavaScript, which we have. So scripting language will do some automation work over here. As soon as you run the program, it will open the Chrome, it will go to the Amazon site and it will go to that particular offer where that big sale is going on. It will go and find out whether that sale has started or not. If it's not started, it will reload and find it again. It click it. If it's not there again, it will try. So this kind of automation work which we do over there, and we also do some of scraping over there to find any information. So these kind of things will be done through scripting languages. And so we'll be etching all kind of little smaller animation, sorry, automation, which we
Yes.
do. Those things are handled from scripting languages which we have. So we also discuss over here that Python is a high-level programming language. So what exactly is high-level programming and what is low-level programming? So the code which you write, everything you write right now, that variable equal to this and information is this and this, everything is high-level language. So the language which you know, which we can understand as a human, but the machine doesn't understand. So machine needs to have all the information which is in a binary, zeros and ones and things. So you need to provide information to the machine that this is the program which we write. So we need to convert all the high level language into low level language. So while you are executing it, so before you are compiling it, so if there is no errors, so after executing you need to after compiling you need to execute it. So while you are executing, the background process, what will happen is that the entire source code which you wrote, it's gonna convert into all the binary format, all the machine code basically, which will convert into a binary format, and so that computer can understand what needs to be done. So even if you are writing what will be the 1 plus 2, so 3 is the output, but computer don't understand what exactly 1 and 2 is. So every binary will have some particular, every code which you write will have some binary format. It will convert all the codes into a binary format, and it will make that particular program is executable. So as also we compare that, we are doing some process here. That we are written a program and we want that to be converted into machine code, and so that computer can understand it. So in terms of converting all these kind of things, we are taking something so which will usage of CPU, and we are trying to do something work which is not machine, or basically the computer is not understanding. So it might take some time to do that process. So if you are directly giving the source code, machine code to the computer, so it will be much easier for them to understand and do it. But if you are doing any high level language, you need to do some process over here which will take some time that computer to understand it, and this particular time of execution will make some delay over there. So that's one of the drawback which high level language have, but we have to deal with that drawback, because we can write low level language, but it's much difficult for us to write and do it. So right now we create a variable and add value to it, but if you have to do all the binary information which you need to store, but it will be difficult for us to understand and write. So as we don't need any understanding of how exactly the hardware works when we are writing any program. So we are writing a program, but we don't know, we don't need how exactly the execution. So after you execute it, conversion of binary things, and how exactly this particular code will go into the machine, that computer. So how exactly and where exactly it will store, or what will happen after it going. So there are lots of hardware part which is there. We are not, we don't need to have much aware of it. So that's why we have different section people who will handle the software part of it and hardware part of it. So as we are dealing with high level language, we don't need to have much knowledge on hardware, but how exactly the information which we are trying to give, where exactly we store it, and what will happen on once the CPU receives the program, and things. So that's on the high level and low level languages. So maybe uh, before we go a little further, if you guys have any questions, you can add on the chat. Okay. So we'll go a little further. So I guess nobody has any questions to know. What Python can do? There are multiple things Python can do. So right now Python can act as a server and client-side application where we can create it. So you cannot create web application using Java or C, but we can do using Python, as Python is a scripting language. So basically scripting language has the capability, not just Python, all the scripting languages will have the capability of doing the communication between client and server side. So client basically is the websites. So right now the site which you are seeing is a client side. So the thing what needs to be happen. So as soon as we click on share, there's some particular thing has to be happen on background. So we will write that particular program in Python. So we can do that communication between client and server side using scripting languages. As Python is one of the scripting language, we can do those kind of things. So there are multiple things which I mentioned over here, which also can be done by other programs as well. But Python can connect to databases. So we have lots of databases available, and we have MySQL, PostgreSQL, and MongoDB, NoSQL, and many things like that. So every time you store any information, you have to store it in a database. Every information. So let's suppose even if you are trying to, as soon as you log into any system, any application, they will be storing all your information in your database. So all those kind of information, we need to access this auto again. So when you're trying to relog in again, we need to know whether this person is already there or not. So we have the flexibility to connect Python to any of those uh, databases which we are trying to use it. So we have that much flexibility where we can retrieve the information from databases. You also might have heard big data somewhere. So what exactly a big data is? So there is small, there is basically it will explain the same thing. The name will itself will explain the behavior behind it. So we know data. So big data is larger amount of data. So every programming application, every programming which we use cannot handle much bigger of data which we are trying to pass it. As I also said before that Python is mostly used for data related information or data related things which we might try to do. So big data is one of the things where we try to analyze and do whatever the analytics part which we have to do using Python. So that Python, that big data will be a completely different route. So you have also you need to learn lots of information while handling bigger of information which you are getting it. So right now Google have lots of information. They don't have like 1,000 or 2,000. They have like crores of users who are there in their database. So uh, they need to also see that if right now you are trying to log in to any of your Google, you need to see whether you are already in their database or not. So they have like crores of information and they need to find whether you are there or not. So it's not easy to find in those all hundreds of crores of information. So we'll take the help of big data where we'll try to split up all the execution, or we'll split up the data into multiple sections of part and we'll parallelly check for it instead of doing it for only one user, and if the user is not there, it will go to a second user, third user, and things like that. We'll split the part and do it in a synchronous manner so that we can make things faster. So we have like this kind of flexibility on big data where we try to find an information in a simpler manner. Even if you're trying to search something on Google, there are lots of information, the thing which you are trying to search. Even if you try some Python, you have like multiple pages of information related to Python, but you need to show some information over there. So we have like lots of data in it. We need to handle those data as well. So Python can be huge, much more useful to handle these kind of things. Um why Python? So Python basically will work on multiple platform, that operating system which we already mentioned. We can easily use it on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And we have few mobile applications where we can use Python on your mobile phones as well, where you can write and execute it. So Python is even in terms of downloading itself package wise, we have very lesser of space, and we have latest Python version which is on Python 3, Python 3.9 something, and you'll be having multiple updates over there. But right now the latest version of Python is 3.9. So you have greater Python community which will help you to understand, or even if you have uh, any doubts related to Python language, you can easily go to Python forums. So forums basically is the community for every language or every software which you use it. So Python will have forum in the same way. Every language will have forum. So Python will have much more users. Even if you try to Google uh, what is the best programming language, you can see Python on top of it. So not just here, even if you go to any of the links, you can see that Python is most used right now. So one of the main thing why Python people use it is because of the learning capability and the and the scope which you can learn, and it's easier to learn. You don't need to uh, write any hashing clues and initialize any classes and things like how we do on Java and C. We can directly write the code. As soon as we open it, we just write the code and print it. So even in terms of readability, it's much easier. So we have something called indentation on Python. So that particular indentation will make the code look much neater, so and much readable for the users, for the people who are trying to write the program. And we also see many of non-technical background people who doesn't have any technical experience. They also use Python, which while they are trying to handle some data. So instead of doing it on sheets, Google Sheets, they'll try to write some small program and categorize it. So we have that flexibility on Python that even a non-programmer or even the person who doesn't have any programming knowledge, they can also understand how exactly Python works easily. So even if while you are initializing any data or writing any program, it will be in very basic terms of language, like how we discuss in uh, English, that if if the second road is blocked, we have to go to third road. So we can write something similar to that in a simpler manner. You don't need to write some complex code that you have to do this and that and write some multiple lines of code in it to do some execution. So it's much easier to do those kind of things when we are dealing with Python. Yeah, so compared to other languages, why Python is much more efficient. So one of the main thing, even if you go anywhere, you see that Python is designed for readability. Readability basically means that you can, as soon as you see the code, you can understand that what exactly is happening. So if I show you this, the program, the snippet which I added, on the left side we have Java. So we see lots of things over here that get canonical path of that particular file which you're trying to access it, and then read it, get the buffer data of it, and then stream it. So we have lots of things which we are doing here, which a non-coder or non-programming person may not understand it. But when it comes to Python, it's very in a easy terms that we are opening a file, and then we are reading a file, and we are closing a file. That's all. So in those terms, Python has that flexibility, that readability is one of the major thing everybody is focusing on right now. And someone asked anything? Okay, I see a few of questions. So maybe we'll finish these two slides and then come back to those questions. Yeah. Yeah, so it's as I said, so it's even in terms of reading any language uh, with as a human, it's easier for us to understand that what exactly that particular line of code is doing. So maybe not the entire programming functionality, but maybe a little of it. It will be much easier for us to understand what exactly, how exactly the things are happening on Python just by seeing the code snippet. So we'll see the questions which were. Yeah, so why it's taking more time to compile? Or are you talking about Python or other programming languages? So so right now, if you're talking about Python, so why it's taking more time to compile? Yeah, yeah. So every time you run any compiler program, so we are doing pre-compilation before itself, that if there is any issues with the entire program, we will be dealing with beforehand itself, so that any issues related to the entire program will be handled then and there, and then we execute it. But when we come to Python, we have to check each and every line. So every line of the code which we have written, it will go to each and every line and check for if there is any errors or not, and then it will compile and execute it then and there. So there is lots of things which is going on in one program of execution itself. So when we are trying to split it, so we'll have that flexibility which can do things much faster than the things which we are everything on one go itself. So without compilation, if you are trying to execute any program, so we are basically skipping one part of cycle, basically life cycle of how exactly a program works. If we are trying to do those kind of things, we'll have like these kind of drawbacks that it will take some time to execute the entire Python file. As we are not doing much pre-compilation before executing the entire Python file, it will go to each and every line and check and execute it. But you might not see much of a difference uh, uh, when it comes to that uh, delay in the execution of both compiler and interpreter languages. But that was a basic term, but uh, it's very minimal to the programs which we usually write it. There's one more question. Java have applet, sir. Can't we develop web application using applet in Java? So right now we are evolving. So before we don't have any flexibility of using any framework. So right now we have multiple frameworks to create each and every task which we are trying to do. So before we don't have any such kind of flexibility. So even if you are trying to create frameworks which will help or which will act as a scripting language for a non-scripting language. So Java is a non-scripting one. So even if you're trying to make it act as it won't be much efficient. Same like even so as you are a programmer, even if there is a non-programmer coming up to it, so you will be having much more knowledge on it than the other person. Even if even he might know, but you will have like much more experience which you do curriculum in the entire programming language itself. So you will have much more understanding, and because you are in that field, you will have that more efficiency, which how exactly scripting things will happen, or creating any websites over it. But you can also choose Java over there in those situations. But in terms of it, we go to the expertise. So expert is for creating web application is for scripting languages. In those, Python is more efficient right now. So nowadays, trend has been changed. So most of the people using Python. So I also see JavaScript is also on a top notch parallel to Python right now. So they are also developing and not just developing. They are already developed their frameworks and their community on forums, and they have their library which on a wider scale where they are creating lots of information and lots of packages on the JavaScript also. So before we used to have the all the machine learning and AI related information, or all the packages which we can do all those automations in it. We have it on only Python on the initially. So we right now we have on Java and thing, but we have on JavaScript where we are doing all those AI related information things, packages which they are creating as well. But they are evolving. But in terms of those, right now, if you ask me, parallel to Python, even JavaScript also trying to be on a top position where it can rule and where it can attract others. So even here you can see that both the programming language is scripting language. So you have the little flexibility to learn easily. So compared to the Java, JavaScript is much easier to learn. So we have TypeScript also, which is similar to Java, which is little advanced to run on multiple operating systems. So do you have any other questions? Maybe I want so everyone who has laptops. So maybe we'll start get on little programming part of it from tomorrow. So I want everybody to install Python in their laptops. Maybe I created a slide for copy the links. So maybe I just added these sample links, but you can also go to Google and find out Python packages. I want everybody to install Python in the system. So I'll have hands-on experience from tomorrow. Is it okay to have ideal? What is ideal? IDE meant? So yeah, so right now I also have an IDE which is VS Code to run any programs or basically to view anything, but I prefer to teach it on using Jupyter so that we can run and execute everything then and there and see the response output of it. So if you have, you can install Jupyter. So if you want Jupyter, you will get it from Anaconda. So you can install Anaconda. Maybe initially you might not need it, so it will be much difficult for you to understand what exactly Anaconda is. But you can install Python in general on your system, and you should be able to maybe start and run any program. Yeah, VS Code is fine. You can. So I'll be doing on Jupyter. So it's basically same thing will happen on Jupyter and VS Code as well. So it will be much easier for me to teach you. In terms of coding, I don't do on Jupyter, but when in terms of coding, if I have to do any coding, I'll do use VS Code. I'll create my own Python files. So just take some Python of installation of any of from the Google and try to install it and see whether you are getting Python or not. So if you have to check whether Python is completely installed or not, just put Python on your command prompt. You should be getting that particular Python is installed in your system or not. So this will give you. I think you need to install the latest version, Python version, which is 3.9. Yeah, Python 3. You will be getting Python 3. So you need to have maybe greater than 3.5 of Python version, which is good. So even if you are trying to install Python 3.9, it's much better. Maybe if you are not specifying which kind of version you want to download, you will be getting 3.9 only, but try to install 3.9, and anything greater than 3.5, it's much better. So try to install Python on your systems tomorrow. We'll have like hands-on experience, like what exactly or how exactly we can code, and then we can go down slowly. Yeah, so even if you are using Python 3.10, you will face some bugs over there. So you won't be having it's like a beta version to an application which you're trying to download. So there is a term called LTS. So LTS basically means that the most of the developers who's trying to use it. So the LTS version LTS version of Python is 3.9. So basically LTS is that a bug-free package which we are trying to use it, which will have long-term support. So LTS basically means long-term support. So the LTS version. So every time you download any package, it's better to go with LTS version. So LTS basically means that it doesn't have any bugs, or it's much feasible for you to use it. So 3.9 is much feasible for you to use it. If you want, you can use 3.10 as well, but anything above 3.5, you will see the same. Same of your the coding which we are trying to do, but 3.9, 3.10 will have much bigger packages which we can use, which we might not use it in our programming days which we are trying to write for smaller programming, but it doesn't matter for you to use it for 3.9, 3.5, greater than 3.5. Try to install it and try to check whether you are able to run the Python or not, so that we can start our hands-on experience on Python tomorrow, and we'll be evolving day by day, starting how exactly we can do or how exactly things will happen while we are writing program on Python. So I think that's all I have. I wanted to discuss about Python. So every day I will also discuss about things that how exactly how will Python is useful in your industrial purpose, and maybe we after a few days of getting some knowledge on Python, we'll discuss industry level coding patterns, how exactly coding complexity will be, or what kind of questions you may expect, things like that. We'll try to solve some few of questions parallelly after having some couple of maybe uh, 10 hours of or 15 hours of class, so that you can understand how exactly the Python is working on. So every day we'll have a Q&A session at the end, and we'll discuss if you have any doubts or how exactly we can do, or if there is an efficient way to do it, or why to do it in that way, and we can discuss about things like that. But for today, I think I'll wrap it up, and that's all on the introduction of what exactly Python is, or what exactly a computer programming is, what will happen behind it. You might not require much more information right now, but as you go on, you learn programming language, you will understand that what is happening. It might little difficult for you to understand everything right now, to get everything into your head, but as we go on, as you start learning Python much easier, so you'll have much also feasible to understand the programming terms, or programming architecture behind it. Okay, so we'll wrap it up now. So if you have any questions, please add it on the chat, or we'll meet tomorrow. I think I hope we had a great session today. So I'm waiting for you to have hands-on experience on Python tomorrow. Please, if you guys have any questions, please add it on the chat. Tutorial website you have sent. Okay, these links. So these I got it for sample. You don't need to follow only this, but these should work. I got it recently. Okay, but so these should work. So if you're not getting these, you can directly type in that install Python on Windows or something. And you can follow any of these structure. So we have lots of links, and we have YouTube links as well to install Python on your computer. So you can follow those things. You don't need to follow the links which I gave. Maybe these I got it recently itself. Maybe I'm getting a warning that I'm in Zoom call. I can't open those links as it will leave the Zoom call, but you can try to open it. You can use any of the installation support, but try to get Python tomorrow, and we can have some hands-on experience. So Anaconda is basically a kind of software which we use it, which will have lots of packages which we can try to use it over there. So you don't particularly need Anaconda, but if you can uh, download Anaconda, maybe you can do parallelly how exactly I'm doing right now, so that you can also see what I'm doing. But Anaconda is not necessary. Install Python, that's it. Even you can open your Python file in your Notepad, Notepad++, and even on your VS Code or any IDE, you can do the program, the things which I'm doing parallelly right now. So install Python. Python is mandatory, not Anaconda. So download Windows embedded package 32-bit. So I think you copied the, yeah, so try to install 64-bit for Windows. So you copy the text over there. So there will be a link on the, maybe on click of download, you will be downloading. Try to download 64-bit based on your system performance. If you're having a greater RAM, maybe I think even if you're having 264-bit one is there. So maybe there is a difference. There should be a difference between in it. To download which version of that 64-bit you are doing. So there may be bit version of Python or maybe operating system difference will be there. But if you are even at the end, if you are seeing any of the two, install in any one of the two. So that's why I told you to follow any of the installation link from the Google. That's why I gave you few links, and those should work. So I checked it before joining the call, and then I added it. So those things you can use it, and then you can install Python on your system. So there won't be any much problem in it. So so here we can see, I think I followed this tutorial point itself, where you can go and download. So here you can see, I don't see any much. So here directly as you go to Python site, you can see the download section where you can download the latest one from there and you can install it. So you, as soon as you install it, there will be an exe file and then you can install Python on your system. So you can go to Python or maybe here. So yeah, so here, okay, so that 64-bit which you are mentioning is here. Yeah, so you can install download in Windows installer 64-bit for 3.9 and 10. So if you want, you can just 10 as well. That's your wish, but I recommend you to download 3.9. That's also comfortable and LTS version of it. Yeah, I think you can get it from here. As soon as you go to Python, you can go to downloads and Windows section. You can download Windows installer 64-bit and you can use it. I want everybody to download Python tomorrow so that we can have it. So you need to just create any Python file and then you can run it. Maybe .py is the extension of Python. So you should be able to run any Python file. And you don't need basically run Python, just check just type Python 3 in your command prompt. So here I have command prompt. So if I go to check and Python 3, so here I have 3.9.10. So if you are able to get this on as soon as you put Python 3, so you have Python installed on your computer so that we can discuss same things tomorrow. So I hope everybody got what you need to do and be ready for tomorrow. And if you have any questions, please let me know right now. We'll wrap it up by answering those. I think I'm not seeing any questions. So I want you guys to be interactive as well. So maybe you might not have much questions today, but I want you to ask much more questions from tomorrow as we are trying to have like little of hands-on experience on Python. So I want you guys to be much more interactive so that we can discuss and you can learn what needs to be done on Python. So why not this and why this? So with the experience I have on my professional side as well. So right now I'm dealing with Python related softwares and Python related programming things. So I can transfer my knowledge to you guys so that you can also understand how exactly a corporate will work on Python side. So I want you guys to be much more interactive so that we can make these sessions in a better way. I think that's all from my side. If you guys have any questions, please add it on the chat so that we can discuss right now. If you guys don't have any questions, we can end this session right now. And we'll meet you guys tomorrow at 7 o'clock again, and then we can discuss much more on Python. Okay. I think I don't see any questions from you guys. So we'll start our session tomorrow. Please make sure that you have Python installed on your system and we can do things parallelly. And you can also understand what is happening over here. Okay, Thank you everyone for joining the call, and we will have a great session tomorrow. I hope we had a great session today in terms of understanding what exactly programming is. I think that's all on the overall end. Thank you. I'll be ending this session. So if you have anything, you can ask me right now. I'll wait for 1 minute, and if not, I'll be ending the session so we can meet tomorrow. Okay, I think it's pretty much clear. So we'll meet tomorrow. I want everybody to install Python so that we can do things parallelly and we can achieve things. I'll be giving whatever things which I'm trying to do on the Python. I want also you guys to do parallelly so that you also understand how exactly things are happening. Okay, thanks for joining the call and ending the session. So we'll meet you tomorrow. Bye bye. Yes, I think someone is trying to ask some question. Uh, Rahul, are you trying to ask anything? Please let me know. Even if you have any questions, please write it down and note it so that if I so what if you don't have a PC? Uh, I'll try to explain everything here on my system. Please write it down. So from tomorrow, I'll give some time to for you guys also to write it on your system parallelly. And if you don't have a system, we cannot. Yeah, you can. So if you there are multiple applications which will support Python, which you can do, but it will be much difficult for you to write the entire program because you won't be having all the keys which everything on your hand. So if there is no laptop for people, so they can have things on their phone, so they can download. There are multiple Python application which you can do or are there on iPhone and Android, so you can download those and you can use as well. Yeah, so there are multiple applications, not just only Python. So there are things which will help you to do some small basic programming on Android mobile phones. But if you have laptop, you can do much better later on. So because right now initially you will be having smaller codes, but later when we are discussing much more, so you will be having much bigger things where you need to write everything. So if there is nothing, we can use these. But if anybody who doesn't are not able to download Python or not able to use it, I'll show you an alternative tomorrow where you can. There are multiple websites you can use it. So I'll give you those alternatives tomorrow and try to download Python right now on your mobile phones or on your uh, laptops so that we can work on Python tomorrow. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, I think that's pretty much of the entire session today. Thank you for joining. Let's meet tomorrow and learn much more on Python. Okay, thank you.